Good evening and welcome to this edition of Just the News. I'm Faye. Let's get straight to it. India has reported less than 2 lakh COVID cases in 24 hours for the first time since the 14th of April this year. Now, according to the data uploaded by the Union Health Ministry today, India has reported 1,96,000 new COVID cases in the last 24 hours and 3,551 deaths. Now, this is according to the official data of the Indian government. India, though, now accounts for a little more than 17% of all the active global cases of COVID, which means 1 out of every 5 cases of COVID in the world is in India. Tamil Nadu, Karnataka, Maharashtra, West Bengal and Kerala registered the maximum number of cases. In the first week of May, India had reported, remember, 4 lakh cases. It's now dropped to less than 2 lakh. Again, I must remind you that these are the official numbers and there are still concerns that there might be some discrepancies in these numbers. The Joint Secretary of the Ministry of Health of the Government of India, Lakh, has said that India is unlikely to get any vaccines from international companies, Pfizer and Moderna, anytime soon because their order books are full. Lakh has said, and I quote, "Whether it is Pfizer or Moderna, we have been coordinating at a central level. Both companies, for most of their time, their order books are already full. It is dependent on their surplus, on how much they can provide to India. They will come back to the government of India and we will ensure that their doses are supplied to the state level." Now, this comes after the Delhi and Punjab governments have said they couldn't procure vaccines from these companies because these companies preferred to deal with the central government. Pfizer, in a statement, said they would only supply vaccines to the central government. Of course, we also should remind our viewers that it was several months ago, in fact, in December last year, that Pfizer had contacted the central government for approval of its vaccine in India, and the central government asked it to conduct bridge trials in India before that approval could be given. And now, when the government is asking Pfizer for those vaccines, they don't have any. Their order books are already full. Multiple states in the meantime have extended their lockdown restrictions. Uttarakhand and Bihar have extended restrictions until the 1st of June. Himachal Pradesh has extended its curfew until the 31st of May. The Chief Minister of Himachal Pradesh has said recovery rate in the state has gone up to 83%. In the meantime, Mr. Ramdev, co-founder of Patanjali, had launched Coronil, a controversial Ayurvedic medicine touted as a cure for COVID in February last year. The product will now be part of the Haryana government's COVID kit, which is distributed free of cost to all COVID patients in the state. Haryana Cabinet Minister Anil Vij has said 1 lakh Patanjali Coronil kits will be distributed free of cost to COVID patients in Haryana. Half the cost will be borne by Patanjali and the other half of the cost will come out of the COVID relief fund of the Haryana government. Now, to do just back of the envelope math on this, the product is available currently on online sources at 550 rupees a box. So if 1 lakh doses are being distributed and if the Haryana government is paying for half that cost, then 2.75 crore rupees is coming out of the Haryana government's COVID relief fund and going to Ramdev's Patanjali for this exercise. Now, to give you a recap of where this product came from, in February, Union Minister of Health, Dr. Harshvardhan, and the Transport Minister, Mr. Nitin Gadkari, on stage had endorsed this product at its launch and spoken at the event. Ramdev claimed that the product was certified by the WHO and it had been approved after a proper clinical trial. The Indian Medical Association had questioned how the health minister, who is a medical doctor himself, could promote what it called falsely fabricated and unscientific product before the country. The WHO had then tweeted that it had neither reviewed nor certified this to any traditional medicine for COVID. The results of the clinical trial of this product were published in an obscure medical journal, were being questioned by data scientists for its very small sample and its what they call flawed statistical analysis. But this product will now be part of a free kit that will be provided to all COVID patients in the state of Haryana. In the meantime, following the Indian Medical Association's formal complaint and FIR against Mr. Ramdev for his statements that allopathy is a stupid science, he withdrew his comments but has now posted 25 questions to the IMA on the efficacy of allopathic medicines. Now, even though he had withdrawn his earlier statement, Ramdev has not stopped attacking allopathic medicine. And from the nature of its communication, he appears to not really be apologetic. The Indian Medical Association had sent a legal notice to Ramdev for defaming scientific medicine and also urged Dr. Harshvardhan, the Union Minister of Health, to act on those statements. In other news, the Delhi Police's special cell teams visited the offices of Twitter India last night in Delhi and Gurgaon and served a notice in connection with its probe on the alleged Toolkit matter. The police sought clarification from Twitter for classifying the tweets by BJP leader Sambit Patra as manipulated media. Now, 2 days ago, the Indian Express had reported that the Ministry for Electronics and Information Technology wrote to Twitter objecting that it had tagged posts as manipulated media. In the letter, the government had asked that the tag be removed. The ministry had said that the move by Twitter appeared to be prejudiced, prejudged, and arbitrary. One of the posts, of course, in question was by BJP spokesperson Sambit Patra. Now, if we take a look at Twitter's policy on its website for manipulated media, Twitter says, and I quote, "Twitter may label tweets that include media, videos, audio, or images that have been deceptively altered or fabricated as manipulated media in order to help people understand their authenticity and provide additional context, especially if the tweet can cause harm." The Delhi police, in the meanwhile, has said that its action of going to the office yesterday was part of a routine process. Remember, the Twitter India office apparently has not been opened for the last year because all its employees are working from home. There was no one there last night. According to the Indian Express, Delhi police PRO Chinmay Biswal has said, and I quote, "This was necessitated as we wanted to ascertain who is the right person to serve the notice to, as replies by Twitter India MD have been very ambiguous," end quote. Hours after the Delhi police action, the Congress hit out at the government saying that this is subjugation of free speech, attempts to stifle dissenting voices, and a bid to instill fear, which is continuing unabated. Mehul Choksi, the 62-year-old fugitive wanted by the CBI and the ED in connection with the 14,000 crore rupee Punjab National Bank loan fraud case and the money laundering case, has gone missing in Antigua, according to media reports. Reports say the Antiguan police have launched a manhunt. Now, Mehul Choksi's lawyer, remember Mehul Choksi is Nirav Modi's uncle, they were part of the same case. His lawyer has made a statement saying that Mehul Choksi is missing. His family members are very worried. They are in touch with the Antiguan police and are very concerned about his safety. We don't know what happened to him, end quote. This is according to the Indian Express. Meanwhile, CBI sources have said the agency has contacted the Antiguan embassy in India and also the Interpol to formally get details and information about his disappearance. Now, when the entire Punjab National Bank scam had actually come out, Mehul Choksi had fled to the Caribbean island back in 2018. He holds an Antiguan citizenship, which one can buy with a certain amount of money and also with a clearance from the Police and the External Affairs Ministry in India. Last year, the Antiguan Prime Minister had made a statement saying his citizenship would be revoked once all of his legal options had been exhausted. He is now missing. A group of former judges, bureaucrats, police officers and diplomats have written to the President, Ramnath Kovind, asking him to take note of the post-poll violence in West Bengal. The letter was signed by 146 people who have said the targeted killings highlight the need of every right-thinking citizen to observe non-violence at all costs and respect the democratic process, which inherently rejects revenge, aggression and retaliation. The letter urged the President to ensure the culprits are punished without exception. In another letter, 2,000 advocates from across the country have written to Chief Justice of India, N.V. Ramana, urging him to take cognizance of the post-poll violence in West Bengal. In the meantime, both the BJP and the TMC continue the blame game on the violence, saying their own party workers have died in that violence. According to media reports, about between 11 and 14 people have died in the violence so far. India is now bracing for another cyclone this month. Cyclone Yas is likely to cross the Odisha-Bengal coast on the 26th of May, which is tomorrow. The severe cyclonic storm is likely to make landfall at the Damra port in Odisha's coast on Wednesday morning. The Indian Met Department has said the NDRF has deployed 115 teams in 5 states, including 1 union territory. Also, the wind speeds are expected to touch 160 to 185 kilometers according to the NDRF. Remember, when Cyclone Choksi hit Mumbai or passed by Mumbai, the wind speed was 100 kilometers an hour. This is between 160 and 185 kilometers an hour. News from the world of business right now. Petrol and diesel prices were hiked for the 13th time this month. The price of petrol right now in Mumbai is 99 rupees and 71 paise, and diesel is 91 rupees and 57 paise, within touching distance of 100 right now. Needless to say, these are all-time high numbers, and the price of fuel has never been this high in the history of our country. According to the Centre for Monitoring Indian Economy, weekly unemployment numbers have risen again for the 4th straight week this time. In urban India, unemployment is now at 17.4% compared to 14.7% it was last week. Although in rural India, the numbers have eased a little bit. It was at 14%, it's now down to 13.5%. These numbers are worrying, but they are lower than what it was at the peak in May last year when unemployment was at 21.7%. But I just want to see, at 21.7%, it means that 1 out of every 5 working adults was out of work. That was the peak last year. We're currently at 17%. So we're not very far away from that peak, and we're rising every week. So it's still a little worrying. Taking a look now at news coming in from around the world. Just 2 months to go before the Tokyo Olympics are set to begin, and the US has now urged against travel to Japan, or issued a travel ban to Japan in the new wave of COVID. It's also issued a warning against travel to Sri Lanka. In its advisory, the US Center for Disease Control and Prevention, what they call the CDC, has said because of the current situation in Japan, even fully vaccinated travelers may be at risk of getting or spreading COVID variants, so you should avoid travel to Japan altogether. From the world of sports, Olympic medalist Sushil Kumar has been arrested in a kidnapping and murder of a 23-year-old wrestler inside of the stadium in Delhi. Sushil Kumar has been on the run for nearly 3 weeks now. The Delhi police had announced a reward of 1 lakh rupees on his head for information leading to his arrest. Now, following his arrest, he's also been suspended from the railways. Sushil Kumar and his associates had allegedly assaulted wrestler Sagar Rana and 2 of his friends on the 4th of May. All 3 had to be hospitalized. Sagar Rana then succumbed to his injuries. Sushil Kumar won the bronze at Beijing in 2008 and the silver at the London Olympics back in 2012. And before we leave you for today, a piece of information about a COVID hero that you might not have read about. Milan Rafiq, who is a resident of Karnataka's Chitradurga town, has been using his vehicle to ferry bodies of COVID patients to the graveyard free of cost in a bid to give them a dignified funeral. People who have otherwise been abandoned by their family members out of fear of COVID. Rafiq has performed last rites of more than 200 individuals, including 80 COVID patients. He's also using his fixed deposit for money because he feels that he didn't want to take money from families who are grieving. His wife, his son, and his son-in-law support him in his mission to give a dignified farewell to the dead. We'll leave you here tonight. Thank you so much for watching. Leave us a comment, offer a suggestion, or maybe just words of encouragement to help us do this job better for you. Thank you for watching. Good night.